Former National Security Advisor John Bolton blasted efforts to extend the truce in the Israel-Hamas war, calling them objectively pro-Hamas. The Biden administration, factions of the Israeli government, and regional allies have urged the two sides to continue a pause in fighting, which ended Friday. The previous week-long pause in fighting allowed for the freedom of over 100 Hamas-held hostages and 240 Palestinian prisoners. I think the second guessing by the Biden administration, the efforts to prolong the pause to turn it into a full ceasefire, are objectively pro-Hamas because it denies Israel the self-defense right it has to eliminate the terrorist threat, Bolton said during an On Balance interview on News Nation with host Leland Vittert. While the Biden administration has not pushed for an indefinite ceasefire in the conflict, as some Democrats have, adding to pressure on the administration, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken did urge a longer ceasefire to continue the hostage release deal. Looking at the next couple of days, we'll focus on doing what we can do to extend the pause so we continue to get more hostages out and more humanitarian assistance in, Blinken said Wednesday. And we'll discuss with Israel how it can achieve its objectives of ensuring that the terrorist attacks on October 7th never happen again, while sustaining and increasing humanitarian assistance and minimizing further suffering of Palestinian civilians, he continued. The deal was extended by 2 days after his comments. Bolton is one of the most vocal opponents of the hostage deal and temporary ceasefire, calling it a very bad deal for Israel and saying it could help Hamas militarily. Ceasefire advocates argue that an indefinite pause in fighting is needed in order to help Gaza civilians, hundreds of thousands of whom have been displaced from their homes due to the war. The short-term deal came after weeks of negotiations between the U.S., Qatar, Israel, and Hamas. The conflict has raged for nearly 2 months, killing over 13,000 Palestinians, including thousands of children, after leaving approximately 1,200 Israelis dead in Hamas' initial attack on October 7th. So, one of the biggest problems with American society when it comes to political discourse is that a lot of people think that just because somebody's wearing a suit and tie, that they are someone, and because they've also held office before, or they're, some other government official, that what they're saying has some logic to it, some basis of reality that is in the best interest of either the U.S. or whatever particular region we happen to be involved with. And Bolton is a perfect example of why just because someone wears a suit and tie, just because someone used to be national security advisor, UN ambassador, you shouldn't listen to them. If they are saying something nuts, people should call it out as being insane. So I think the second guessing by the Biden administration, the efforts to prolong the pause to turn into a full ceasefire, are objectively pro-Hamas because it denies Israel the self-defense right it has to eliminate the terrorist threat. Well, in a ceasefire, both sides stop attacking each other. So you could make the argument that every single ceasefire that has ever taken place is pro the side that is considered the underdog or the main agitator. I mean, you have 13,000 people die in this conflict. And the ceasefire is one of the few things that ensures there will be no more drops of blood. Not only from, this conflict, but from people dying from starvation or lack of resources. And Bolton says, the ceasefire is objectively pro one side because it prevents Israel from eliminating all Palestine. I mean, just Hamas. And that's one of the problems with these extremely pro-Israeli American officials. You will never see Bolton acknowledge Israel should not kill innocent civilians. Hamas's attack was wrong. We don't support violence. But these innocent civilians that have been killed as a result of that attack by the Israeli government should not have died. You'll never get these Netanyahu bootlicking, AIPAC worshipping pricks to ever take such a basic position as that. Never. God, I just... the thing is, I've said before, I'll criticize Biden when he does something wrong. I wish he would call for a permanent ceasefire, as some Democrats have. But it's like anytime there's a country that's doing something that's aggressive to a group of people, another region, wherever, you have these guys, a lot of these neocons, right? You know, Bolton, Nikki Haley, the rest of them, who just they will try to push him in these directions of more and more conflict. Like you almost think these people enjoy bloodbaths in other regions because they know they would never risk any personal injury to themselves. So they can go on TV and go, yeah, a ceasefire is pro one side because it stops the other one from killing every single person that they can convince themselves is pro the little tiny terrorist group that hasn't had an election over 10 years or 15 years, however long it's been since 2006. If the US actually had a functioning democracy with commentators and journalists who pushed back on this stuff, they would print the headline, Bolton wants indefinite war. Not, oh, maybe, you know, they need to have this in the negotiation. No. Bolton wants indefinite war, wants complete genocide of Palestinians because that's who's been killed by these Israeli attacks. And you won't see him or Lindsey Graham or, again, Haley. None of them will ever acknowledge it. They just go on TV with their bloodthirsty rhetoric and face no consequence, no pushback, nothing. That's why I said, thank God for the internet, because rest assured, if we were still stuck in the 80s, 90s, where the only time you could get news and commentators was on TV, a lot of people would be more easily convinced of this stuff. Because many people really don't know what's going on over there. So it's harder for them to take to hear that stuff and decipher it for themselves. Like, hey, what is this guy actually saying? It's pro one side to have a ceasefire where neither side gets to attack each other. Somehow that's a logical statement on his part. And unfortunately, he'll keep getting put on TV, you know, for his name recognition and for the post that he had. And it's a shame because a guy like this just wants to see people die. He just wants to appease this foreign government. They're more loyal to these foreign governments than their own damn country. And they have no problem spilling thousands of people's blood, including kids, all across the Middle East and around the world in the name of their oh-so-favorite military-industrial complex.